You don't say this You don't do that. Hi everyone, it's your host Sleepy Hoax here, and just to preference this video, I'm barely going to show any photos or videos from My Hero because I am afraid of Shonen Jump and the things that they will do to me. I remember that one guy and I will not be like him. Just as a content warning though, I will be talking about bullying, assault, anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, some more in-depth than others, but just to let you know. So with that being said, let's get on with the show. With My Hero Academia coming to an end, it seems like the right time to talk about how much I loved and hated this show. Remember to take everything that I say with a grain of salt because I'm just a girl. I think it was about 2015 or 2016 when I first found the manga. Essentially, when I first found My Hero, there was nothing online about it. It took me some time to find more chapters because the the site that I was using wasn't up to date with the manga. It was so apparent that the manga was so new that there was nothing about it on AO3. If you are in the fanfiction world, that means something. Needless to say, I've been in the My Hero Academia community for a long time. Starting out, the manga was great. I come from a family that loves superheroes, so this was my bread and butter. I absolutely loved the concept of My Hero, a superhuman society where almost everyone has powers and those powers are well accepted versus something like the X-Men in Western comics, where superpowers are something to be hidden because the mass populace is scared. My Hero took something that Western comics do constantly and flipped it on its head. And Midoriya is not a bad main character. Now, I might be a little biased because Midoriya is green, and my favorite color is green. But that is besides the point. Midoriya has some great qualities. He's kind, shy, has a sweet heart, and just wants to make people smile. And I don't think his crying makes him a bad main character. Some people might find that annoying, but I never did. It just made Midoriya seem in tune with the things around him. It made him seem like he understood the gravity of everything, the powers that he inherited, just how fortunate he was to have this opportunity, and the gravity of the expectations that people and him were putting on himself. I liked seeing a main character that would cry. We don't get that a lot in big shonen titles. Midoriya, his story, and the society around him were the selling points for me, and it was probably my own expectations for the story that let me down. That and where the story was going, because what the For me, everything kind of went downhill roughly around the time where Overhaul got involved. Not to say that Overhaul himself was a bad character, because I thought he brought some pretty interesting things to the table, like his background and the idea of forcibly taking people's quirks away. But there was something about his arc that felt weird. Listen, this is not a literary analysis of My Hero Academia. I'm pretty sure I'm not able to do that. If you want to watch a video breaking down why this arc kinda sucked, please, this is not the place.
Brother,
There was something around this time where it felt like things were going downhill. And boy did it. All I remember after the Overhaul arc was that one guy with the one girl. That was weird. The concert, the redemption arc they were trying to give Endeavor, they definitely shouldn't have. The massive fight between good and evil. Then Midoriya went on his own for an emo arc. And then finally, the massive fight between good and evil again. Oh, yeah, and that really weird traitor plot that felt very out of place. Looking back, this is kind of a lot of examples, but also not a lot at all. Anyways, the time after Overhaul's arc wasn't that impressionable. I mean, if you talk to anybody about My Hero, they'll probably talk to you about the Stain arc or the Sports Festival arc because there were two pretty solid arcs. The rest, not so much. As the series continued, everything started to seem impractical because All Might said he was originally quirkless, which makes everything he said to Midoriya at the beginning of the manga even worse. It also doesn't help that instead of giving Midoriya a set power with a power scaling and trying to work around those set boundaries, Midoriya now has what seems like a limitless amount of powers, essentially being the most powerful character in the manga. It all just felt like a lot to be desired, which left me wanting, thus creating expectations. I think, looking back, it was my own fault that I grew kind of resentful of the manga. Now, whenever I get a notification that the manga has updated, a sense of dread and panic takes hold of my heart. I physically can't click on it, probably because the story has let me down so much. I know, again, it's my fault for thinking that a story that is catered to 12 to 15-year-old boys wouldn't hit the talking points, the deeper meanings, the expectations that I had placed upon it. I should have known that the focus would be on the action-packed scenes rather than focusing on the deeper messages that are inherently embedded in a story regarding a superhuman society. I should have known that fanfiction can sometimes elevate the story in a way that I wanted it. I should have known. However, Avatar: The Last Airbender exists, and it did better. It's hard not to place expectations on a piece of media that has been ongoing for years. Those expectations continuously build upon each other, but then when the story pans out in a way that disappoints you, it's hard to continue with it, or even to stay at all. The disappointment festers and grows into something you can't recover from. For me, that disappointment comes from the mishandling of quirk discrimination. Quirk discrimination works in multiple ways. There's the view of quirks in the eyes of whether they are villainous or heroic, and if they are villainous, then the person is picked on and bullied. There is also how if a quirk is not viewed as looking human enough, they are viewed as hideous or villainous, thus leading to those people being attacked and outcasted. But in this world, having a villainous quirk might be better than having nothing at all. My Hero touches upon these first two sections of quirk discrimination in a pretty okay way. Most of the villains' backstories tend to lead toward having a quirk that society deems as villainous and pushes them into that villain role. But when you look towards the hero side of things, this reflects mostly in Shinso and his mind-controlling quirk. For the middle example, and spoiler warning for anime fans and people who are not caught up with the manga, for like what I'm pretty sure it was 2 chapters, Bird Boy and Ninja Armed Kakashi Dude. Wow, I must have been really tired when I wrote that into the script. They were able to get some villains onto their side just by briefly describing how people were cruel to them because of their abnormal, quote-unquote, appearances. I would have loved if this scene was more than just a crumb of a bigger piece of pie, but no. They give me nothing. Nothing.
Hey, Fred, give me a pizza with extra cheese.
Extra cheese.
And hold the tomato sauce.
Hold the tomato sauce.
And hold the crust.
Hold the crust.
Hey, Jimmy, give me a cheese with nothing.
Nothing?
I wish that these 2 chapters would have gone into more depth of their childhood and background and seeing how they overcome that fear of other people and that fear of being viewed as villainous. But my problem mostly stems from the other 20% of the population never being mentioned again. Besides All Might's random background of not having a quirk, being a mirror image of Midoriya but with a loving teacher that probably knows how to teach a student. And again, that weird traitor plot with Oyama. People who are quirkless are basically never talked about again. Let's take a minute to talk about Midoriya when he was quirkless. For the first 3 to 4 chapters are Midoriya not having a quirk, like the day he was born, red shoes and all. During those couple of chapters, we as the readers get to see a glimpse into what life is like in this society if you do not have a quirk. It's not pretty. Right off the bat, we see Midoriya confronting Bakugo with his ragtag groupies at the age of 4. Each one of the bullies using their quirk on Midoriya. Now you could say, they're kids! Kids are weird. And I'm gonna stop you right there. Aggression is a learned behavior. Kids can learn it from their homes, schools, and media. If it's not corrected at a young age, it will only continue to thrive. And that's what we see through Bakugo. His aggression and certainty in that was brought about through people constantly putting him on a pedestal because of his strong quirk at the age of 4 and was reinforced through society's ideals, through his teachers and classmates viewing showing him his quirk and his should-be bright future in such a high regard. Strong quirks are beneficial to fighting evil, to benefiting society, where people who do not have any quirks are viewed as not adding anything to society. But it is society itself, its views and expectations of quirks, that create the evil in the first place. But I'm getting away from myself. A couple of pages later from our opening incident, we see Midoriya in his classroom, ducking his head and curling into himself as everyone with a quirk cheers for their future of becoming a part of one of the most pristine professions in this society: heroes. And when the teacher knowingly mentions, after Bakugo's tirade of how he's going to go to the best hero school in all of Japan, UA, that Midoriya, someone who is quirkless, also wants to go. Interjection: as someone who went to college to be a teacher, you don't say this shit. You don't do that. You are not allowed to divulge students' information to another person, let alone in front of the class. And you know, he knew what he was doing too, because the entire class erupted into laughter and Bakugo used his quirk on Midoriya's desk, thus the explosion caused Midoriya to fall to the floor. The entire atmosphere was one of the class bullying one student, and yet the teacher did nothing to stop them. A page later, when school is done and everyone is planning what to do, no one asks Midoriya. He just sits there scrolling on his phone. Then Bakugo and his two friends instigate a fight again, or rather a merciless one-sided attack against Midoriya, trying to tear down his hopes and dreams, but also physically assaulting him once again by using his explosion quirk on Midoriya's shoulder and verbally assaulting him, saying to quote-unquote go take a swan dive off the roof. A lot of Bakugo defenders do point out a panel of Bakugo's friends saying, yeah, you went too far today, insinuating that Bakugo doesn't give out death threats on the daily. But it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter, because the end goal is the same. Midoriya is ruthlessly bullied by not only his supposed friend, his peers, but also adults who are supposed to be important figures in his life. Teachers. I say all of this to point out that this is how the society in My Hero views people who are quirkless. If you want another example, we can talk about how, spoilers, Oyama, who comes from a rich family but was born quirkless, and his parents were so afraid of having their son go through life quirkless, they actively went to a villain to give their kid a quirk, ultimately pledging their loyalty and allegiance to a villain that is actively trying to kill their son's teachers and classmates. Even though I personally hated how this plot line was strung in, it's kind of understandable how the parents chose villainy over a life of constant ridicule, bullying, harassment, death threats, and physical assault. The society looks down upon people who are quirkless, and when all of this happens to Midoriya, it's in middle school, which is already the worst possible time this could be happening. Middle school is the time where puberty hits. It is notorious for being one of the worst time periods in a human's life. People are just trying to grow into themselves, but it is also one of the most judgmental times ever. Anyways, society does not view highly people who are quirkless. Midoriya is an example, however, he is also different. Midoriya has something about him. It could be plot armor. It probably is the plot armor. But through 10 years of bullying, Midoriya does not give in. He still holds onto his dreams of being a hero. He still loves and adores quirks. He still views Bakugo as a friend when he definitely shouldn't have. Midoriya has a strong heart and a stronger will. He just didn't give up. I, like probably many other people, if we were placed in his situation, we would probably give in. I wouldn't really know what I would do because I've never been put in a situation quite like this, but I would definitely tell my mom and be homeschooled 100%. I would never leave my room again. Frankly, I'm going to be super blunt when I say this, but I'm surprised that after 10 long years of bullying and being outcasted every single day, that Midoriya did not get depression or have suicidal thoughts. I'm just saying, I'm sorry, but after everything I said, he only got anxiety from that. Not to armchair diagnose anyone, but I'm going to armchair diagnose Midoriya right here, right now, because he definitely has anxiety. Now, I'm no professional when it comes to discussing or understanding mental health issues. Again, I am but a girl. However, as I was saying, Midoriya has anxiety, and I just wish that it was handled differently. It was just shocking that he didn't develop anything other than anxiety, but it's fine that he didn't. I'm just shocked by that. However, I want to go into a bit of depth of what I wish had happened with writing about Midoriya's anxiety. Midoriya should definitely have trauma from this. It was through his entire childhood years, and those are formative. However, throughout the manga, it kind of feels like he doesn't. It kind of feels like the only trauma we see from this time is his anxiety. And even then, it's not to the degree it probably should have been. From basically every important person in his life, they all dismissed his dreams, outcasted him, ridiculed him, and put him down. It's surprising that Midoriya continues to trust people. Because of his childhood being some of the most formative times in a person's life, Midoriya should be apprehensive to people. I would have written his anxiety to be a little bit more severe. He's been through pretty extreme events, despite how the manga kind of minimizes that. He has been constantly betrayed by everyone around him at one point or another, so he should be apprehensive about meeting new people. There should be an anxiety there because he shouldn't trust people. I wish that when Midoriya got into UA, he didn't become fast friends with Uraraka and Ada? Fuck. I wish that when Midoriya got into UA, he didn't become fast friends with Uraraka and Ida. I would have written it that Midoriya got anxiety when talking to them in the doorway. What we did see was Midoriya being nervous to talk, but because he was talking to a girl, rather than being anxious to meeting new people from that distrust. I would have written it that he did something like taking a small step away from the two, or playing with the straps of his backpack, or looking down and away when he talked to them. I would have taken the time to build up Midoriya's trust for Uraraka and Ida. I would have written it as Midoriya sitting by himself at a lunch table, and then Uraraka and Ida walk up to him asking if they can sit with him. Midoriya could have hid his face, but have it feel like he had to say yes because he thought that everyone in the cafeteria had their eyes on him, and what he answered when he forced himself to mumble out a yes, he could have scooted slightly away from them, but slowly started interacting with the conversation. Then, over time, show them eating lunch again, but Midoriya slowly sitting closer to the group, showing him slowly trusting his classmates. Or, when Midoriya is in a group of people, show flashbacks to how Midoriya got anxious when his entire middle school class was staring down at him in dark silhouettes while laughing. And part of his journey is trying to get over being in crowds, which can tie into Shigaraki at the mall, because Midoriya could have been internally trying to get over his fear of crowds, but when the handman was there, Midoriya knew he had to step up to save everyone. I think it would have been interesting showing Midoriya being extremely anxious without his superhero persona. Then, when he puts on the suit, he's still anxious, but he's actively trying to overcome it to save people with a smile, to be the hero that they needed. I think it would have been a great internal conflict trying to regulate his anxiety. It would have shown Midoriya's innate distrust of people when the suit is off, but when it's on, he feels more free when saving people because saving a stranger is easier than learning to trust someone new. But going back to the point that I wanted to make, for a long time in the manga, people who are quirkless are not talked about. It is a topic that is pushed to the back of the plot when it should be front and center, considering our main character. If we take Midoriya's experiences as the norm, because they most definitely are, then we can easily assume that this happens to the rest of the 20%. I wish that my hero addressed this violent norm maybe in news report, or maybe have kids in UA talk about people who are quirkless. Maybe have Midoriya overhear this chatter, then he's walking down the halls with his friends and have them realize that this is a sore subject for Midoriya. Then maybe have them tell Midoriya that if he wants to talk about it, he can. Have Midoriya agonize over finally trying to place his trust in his new friends. Then, when he finally does tell them about his past, it's in a vague, metaphorical way, or saying that this was a cousin of his that was quirkless. Have his friends be kind and understanding to the story, and then that shows Midoriya that he can trust them. And when he truly does reveal that he is quirkless, frankly, I don't know anymore. He knows how they will react. I don't know. Something like that would have been great. instead of just having Midoriya mail them a letter and reveal it in a letter when he goes off for his emo arc. All I wish is for the general violent treatment of people who are quirkless to be addressed. I just wish that Bakugo got the consequences of his actions, that All Might actually cares about the emotional well-being of his student. That would be great.
Oh my god! Wow!
I also do want to say just how amazing the underdog story would have been if Midoriya hadn't gained powers. Him getting powers feels a lot like a cop-out, because if he didn't have powers, the author would have to go into depth with how cruel the society is towards people who do not have quirks. Frankly, I would have liked the idea of him not having a quirk and having it to slowly build trust with peers and other heroes to be able to come together and fight the big bad, rather than have it where Midoriya continuously gains new quirks to fight the big bad, and it kind of feel like he's cementing himself as another All Might. I could be wrong here because I haven't been keeping up with the manga in this last big fight, but the appeal of my hero was having your set quirk and working around your limitations. Having his powers just doesn't feel the same versus him being the first quirkless hero with a Batman-like approach, using his knowledge of quirks against his enemies. It would have hit differently if Midoriya saw the heroes that fight with martial arts and go-go gadgets and saw how his dream can live on because he can learn to do what they do. It would have been great to see essentially a sunny, kind-hearted Batman. I think that's all I wanted to say. Maybe. I think I articulated myself well enough to get my point across. This is just my feelings on how I see my hero after years of being in the community and finally getting tired of having my hopes being let down. If anything that I said came across as insensitive or was incorrectly stated, please let me know in the comments below so I can fix myself for the future. Please have any and all discussions in the comments below. Be respectful and kind to one another, but be critical towards my hero. Just because we love something or hate something doesn't mean that we can't be critical of it. Thank you for listening to me rant about my hero. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay sleepy. I'll see you all later.